It's quiz time again, amigos, and today I'm going to be asking you if you know where certain Spanish words come from. Maybe you speak Spanish, maybe you study Spanish. You've probably heard that Spanish is a language of Roman origin, it's a language of Latin origin, so therefore the majority of vocabulary in Spanish comes from Latin, and that is true, but it's not the entire picture. And today I'm going to present you with 6 words, and I want you to figure out which language has Spanish borrowed it from, because Spanish, throughout the course of its history, has borrowed a lot of words from other languages. Vámonos. The very first word is izquierda, the Spanish word for left direction, izquierda. But what language does it come from? Is it from A, Nahuatl, B, Latin, C, Basque, or D, Arabic? If you guessed Basque, you're right. And it does actually look like a Basque word. If you're familiar with Basque surnames, Zumalacárregui, Zumárraga, Zubizarreta, you could probably see that similarity already. Izquierda, interestingly enough, is the only directional word, to my knowledge, that isn't from Latin. Arriba, abajo, derecha, all from Latin. But izquierda comes from Basque. And it's actually quite interesting because it sometimes makes us wonder if Spanish got left from Latin instead, what would it be? My assumption is that it would be something like siniestro, because the Latin word for left was sinister, which is where we get the word sinister from. If you're interested in that, because there's a fascinating symbolic history behind that word, let me know in the comments below, because I think it would make for a great video. La segunda palabra que tenemos es tomate. Tomate, sí. So, the tomate in your cocina. Where does it come from? Tomate. Latin? Is it perhaps Quechua? Maybe it's Nahuatl. Perhaps it's Phoenician. Now, some of you might have got this already. Tomate is not from any European language, it's from tomatl, the Nahuatl word for the fruit. And this makes a lot of historical sense. Tomatoes didn't exist in Europe before the Columbian exchange. Interestingly enough, chilies are also from the Americas and only arrived in Asia due to the Columbian exchange, something that maybe you might have not known before this. But yes, tomatoes come from the Nahuatl tomatl. If I've made a mistake there with the Nahuatl pronunciation and any of you guys are familiar with it, let me know in the comments below, por favor. La tercera pregunta, la tercera palabra shouldn't be too difficult for avid followers of this channel. Guerra. Where does the word guerra come from? Is it Italian, Turkish, Farsi, or Gothic? Well, guerra is translated as war, and it's literally related to war, in the sense that it's etymologically related to war. As a side point, some of you may have noticed that a lot of words that begin in W in English begin in G in French and Spanish. Think about William and Guillermo or Guillaume. Think about ward and guardia, like the Guardia Civil. There's a long story behind that, and it would be interesting to make a video. If you want to hear about that, let me know in the comments below. But yes, guerra in Spanish comes from Gothic, a Germanic language, which is the family of languages English gets war from as well. So the two are literally very closely related. The next one is a word you might not have actually heard of, but you probably have heard of Cádiz, the city in the south of Spain. Well, maybe you know that an inhabitant of Cádiz is a gaditano. If I lived in Cádiz, I would be gaditano. But where does that word come from, gaditano? Is it Astur-Leones, of Ibero-Celtic origin? Is it Latin, or is it Phoenician? Well, it just so turns out that gaditano is one of the few remnants of Phoenician in the Spanish language. Historically, again, this makes a lot of sense. As some of you may know from a previous video we made, the Phoenicians controlled many cities in the south of Spain before the Second Punic War, when Hispania was taken by the Roman Empire. It makes sense that Cádiz was the Carthaginian settlement Gadir, and that's where the demonym gaditano comes from. Moving on to la quinta palabra, we have alcaide. Alcaide is a mayor, but what language does it come from? Is it Arabic? Is it Phoenician? Could it possibly be Ibero-Celt? Maybe it's also Latin. If you follow the very simple rule that most Spanish words that begin with al are from Arabic, you've been spot on, because alcaide is from the Arabic word meaning commander, alcaide. Forgive my pronunciation, Arabic speakers. And of course, again, the historical context of this is that much of the south of Spain was under some form of Islamic rule from about 711 up to the late 14th century, and even continuing in some parts to 1492. Now I'm going to finish with the last one. In the distance, I can see a puente. Unfortunately, I can't move the camera, so you can. But puente means bridge. Where does puente come from? What language does it come from? Is this another Arabic word? Could it perhaps be from Italian? Maybe it comes directly from Latin. Or perhaps we're faced with another Phoenician word. Well, puente, for any of you who study Latin, should be the easiest one. The Latin word for a bridge is a pontus. And in fact, the Latin word for bridge builder, pontifex, which was the position of high priest in the Roman Empire. From pontus to puente, we see a very common phonological development that occurs throughout much of Spanish. Well, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching this. I hope that you got a high score. Let me know your score down below. I'm sure many of you did pretty well, but if you didn't, you at least came away learning something interesting. Muchas gracias, amigos, y hasta la próxima.